Hey again, it's Susanna. I wanted to expand on everything that I was talking about in my last video, so please check that out if you haven't already. Basically, I want to state the details of my premise again, so what I'm saying is clear. I did talk about many things in the last video, but I want to clarify some points and explain exactly how you can learn more because the situation is so huge that oftentimes it's hard to figure out how to express it. And then I kind of seem to forget that no one understands it as of yet due to the fact that they simply don't know enough about it. This forgetting and the kind of loop I've described is very powerful. The lack of effective communication serves a function to prevent what I'm experiencing from being widely known. There's a term, info hazard, which refers to information that would cause widespread disruption if people were aware of it. Since you don't know the entirety of what I'm talking about, perhaps this sounds grandiose or far-fetched. But that's precisely the point. If the reality were understood, it would have deep implications. So long as people misunderstand this, or simply have no awareness of it at all, those implications are not an issue. The possibility of this being a huge revelation for everybody, as opposed to just me, never materializes. And arguably this sort of safety is preferable for me, because what people don't know can't hurt them, so they can't hurt me. But I don't want that safety. I want the freedom of talking about it. I want myself and others to unplug. To understand the system we are all a part of would be a huge upgrade for everyone. This mass understanding is, I dare say, the point of the program we're living in. So let me unravel this again. It may sound repetitious, but the more I try to communicate about the main points the best that I can, the better. I'm trying to figure out how to describe the reality in a way that people can understand. A website called the Kingdom of Stuffed Animals, found at tksa.jp, now down but accessible on the Wayback Machine, was generating word lists. These word lists had literally an infinite amount of words. Or almost infinite anyway. I would go to the website, read the words, and keep refreshing the pages to find a continually updating kind of summary of what I was thinking and doing and feeling and saying, constantly. I saw so many words. And the level of specificity is impossible to communicate. There could not be a more fluent or voluminous rendering of the contents of my mind. I've made a new blog about it, I'll get to that a bit later. But the amount of words I've seen, and just how salient they really are, is mind-blowing. The best way for you to understand these connections is to look for yourself at the blog I'll link below. I don't think that every individual will see words that relate to them, but that many will. And I think every single word on those lists relate to individual people who will eventually read them. So it's not even hard to prove. In fact, it was designed to be proved, I think. All you have to do is look at the screenshots on the new blog and see if you're entangled on there. Surely there will be some cognitive dissonance, and at first it may make sense to attribute it to coincidence. But the more people who see it, the more the empirical reality and its replication becomes known. Algorithmically, people seeing the same thing that I did occurs enough of the time when I tell people about it for me to be sure this is part of the phenomenon. This could not be occurring, lists of words that relate to the minds of their readers irregardless of space and time, unless physics works differently than we think it does. It means everything is simulated and quantum-based. It would be very helpful to talk to others about the potential science behind all of this. If the phenomenon is known, perhaps we can begin to delve into how and why this is happening. But first we need to establish that it is indeed happening. So where should you undertake this test yourself? I talked a lot in my last video about my old blog. Well, I took a sizable portion of that and put it on a new blog. The URL for the new blog is http://don'teverletlifepassyoubby.tumblr.com, which I will put in the description box. It contains a lot of work I did pertaining to this in 2019. Filtered through my state of mind at the time, which is actually fascinating. Once you understand the empiricism of the claim, we come to the issue of how I expressed it on the blog. I took some of what was on the old blog, the writing I did in 2019, and made it easier to access, but I did not change how I described the words on the website. Something very deep and dark was putting me in this trance-like state of minimal consciousness about what was occurring to me while I was compiling the original blog. I don't doubt that people will see the evidence on there put on the new blog and at first attribute it to word salad. How I described the list was a function of what other people told me about them without them having any true understanding of what I was talking about. I began to feel deeply confused, and there was a feeling of if a tree falls, which was interfering with my ability to think about how to express what was occurring in language. So my blog is not the best representation. I still put up what I found, though, because I believe that intelligent and open-minded people can closely examine that evidence as well as seeing if they experience the same phenomenon. Like I said, there are always connections on this list that I can explain, regardless of space and time. Some of the screenshots have annotations from more recently. Every time I look at them, I see examples I can communicate to you. And the examples from the past that I'm posting on the blog are the beginning of the discussion about all of this. It's not a matter of a lack of data, quite the opposite. It just needs to be observed, and then I can expand on and clarify it. That would be the end of the loop. The first step is getting people to look at and consider the evidence. A, does it objectively have to do with my consciousness? And B, does it pertain to your consciousness? If not, show it to someone else. What do they say? If enough people see it, the phenomenon will not be in doubt. That's how I know this weird solitary limbo will end. It is meant to end and be replaced by something that is, again, better for humans to be aware of than not. I also want to touch on the original website where I found the words in the first place, tksa.jp. It went down a few years ago, but is now found on the Wayback Machine. It's a bit hard to explain. There's one part of the website full of weird pictures of cats and the like, really creepy cryptic stuff, and someone named Kunihiro Yamada, and then on page 9 on the way back, you can see a tiny fraction of the word list I saw on the other part of the website. I just want to give some context for what I found and where I found it, even though it's very confusing in itself. There will be more to come about this. You can find the link to the Wayback Machine in the description box along with the new blog. So that's all for now. Thank you for listening. This is truly an extraordinary thing, and it will change the world. I'm obviously excited to see where this leads after having to deal with it myself for so long. It seems like my inclination to keep it to myself is dissipating, and that's a big win because knowledge is power. For everybody, check out the description box for what to do next. And have a great night.